What is up, folks, and welcome to the BJT Show. I'm your host, Byron. In this show, I talk about sports, media, entertainment, and those sorts of things. And sometimes I interview guests as well. But for this segment, it's not necessarily an interview segment per se, but it's actually the BJT Show's first debate segment where I talk about different topics in sports and debate other people on those topics and, let them give their takes and opinions and those such things. And so I want to introduce my guest, David Wingfield. He works in the marketing department for the Orlando Magic. He's an avid Falcons fan. He's been in the sports media world for a good little while, and he's the owner of Now Media Group, and that is NOW Media Group. And so you can check out his social media, Now Media Group social media, all in the description box. Check out my social medias, and also I just dropped a new merchandise line for BJT Inspire. It has duffel bags, tote bags, hats, shorts, jogger pants, windbreakers, all that good stuff. So be sure to check that out. But David, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, bro. Appreciate the opportunity. You're doing your thing too, so happy to be on here.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. So I want to start off with the Falcons. You said you were an avid Falcons fan, and I know on TikTok you've had a lot of opinions on the Falcons and you've given a lot of takes on the Falcons. So first topic of the day for this episode is Falcons beat the Raiders on December 16th, 2024, 15-9. And Falcons defense really came to play. But the Falcons, some people say they didn't have the greatest game, but they still got the win, which is a good thing. So what's your take on that game?
Man, there's so many places to start, like I think as a collective as Falcons fans, this is probably the first time we've really been mad with a victory. This was an underwhelming showing for sure. Kirk Cousins, I think that's the obvious way to start off, but I'm gonna start off with something positive. The defense played terrific. The defense played terrific, got a safety, two block punts on special teams. Young Hoku still showing us that why he needs to get cut this year. So he will be gone after this year. But besides that, defense and special teams played good, man. But getting into the offense and those struggles, Kirk Cousins, 11 for 17, 112 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Better than the past month, but still not good enough to take us to where we want to go. As Falcons fans, we haven't been to the playoffs in a while. So get into the playoffs would be perfect. And at the beginning of the season, it was looking good. 6-3, we were in first in the division. It beat Tampa Bay twice. Everything was looking smooth until this month started happening. So downhill from there. But as far as if we're going to get into the game, man, I really just thought that the game plan coming in was to get Kirk Cousins ready. It's a sorry team, if we'll be honest. They're trying to get Shador. Sorry team, get him in. But just some of the decision making that Kirk was doing is just it showed up and he was making bad decisions and then you could gradually see the game plan switch to okay, he can't get it done. Let's run the ball. Bijan Robinson, 22 carries, 125 yards was terrific. Absolutely terrific. I think he's one of the top three running backs in the league. But you could gradually see the game plan switch from okay, let's get this man going into gosh, we have to get out of here with a win. So, disappointing, but it was a win. I'm happy with that. I think the defense, special teams played terrific, like I said, but Kirk Cousins, it's getting sketchy, man. It's real sketchy.
Yeah, I understand your points for sure. I want to start with the defense. Like you were saying, I think the defense played really good. I think the defense played terrific, like you were saying. And, the defense has been criticized a good bit throughout the year. I know the secondary's been criticized, but especially the front seven. People have had a lot of negative things to say about the Atlanta Falcons front seven. But against the Raiders, they showed up. Defense played well. I think they even got a safety during the game
Yes.
or something like that during the game. And so they did a good job. But the offense didn't really have their back. So offense didn't really have their back, didn't really score a lot of points. I know Bijan played a good game, Drake London played a good game, but things just didn't seem as efficient. And so with the Falcons, do you
Absolutely.
think it's a quarterback issue only, or do you think it's more than
I don't think it's just a quarterback issue. And I'm glad you said that because while the defense has been doing great, especially since the bye week, I believe we had our bye week 12. After that, the defense has been terrific. Arnold Ebiketie, He's played. I always thought he was going to be a really good player, but he's really starting to show it now. Grady Jarrett's always been solid. Matthew Judon was very underwhelming this year, but he's starting to show a little effort, and he's also not getting played as much too. So I think that's improving the defense as well. But as far as do I think it's just a quarterback problem? No. Our secondary has been lackluster to say the least. I think Jesse Bates has had a pretty good season, but honestly, he's made a lot of mistakes as well too that you just don't normally see an All Pro like that make. Justin Simmons has been another underwhelming offseason signing. I know he had an interception last night. Great for you, but I think he's had an underwhelming season to say the least. So it's not just Kirk Cousins is the reason why we've been losing these games. He's been a major factor, and if I had a point, he's probably number one. But he's not the only reason. Special teams came up yesterday, but Young Hoku is also. We would have won that Saints game if it wasn't for Young Hoku. Despite how Kirk Cousins played, and I can't remember the stats off the top of my head of how he played, but Young Hoku missing those field goals in the Saints game is why we lost. And if we would have won that game, the point of the season we're at right now would be looking a lot different. So not just Kirk Cousins, he places a lot of blame, but the defense has been pretty lackluster besides coming back from the bye week. And Young Hoku is, like I said, he has to go this year. He has to go. He looks like a shell of his former self.
That's a pretty out there statement. Saying that the
It's the
Falcons
truth.
should probably release Young Wei Koo, but like you were saying before, earlier in the show, the Falcons were doing good at the beginning of the season. They were doing good, having a good season. They were 6-3 at one point, and everything was going fine. And then things just started to, lack off a little bit as the season has gone along. And I agree with the Falcons have been doing well, or did well at the beginning of the season, starting out, especially with that Chiefs game. I believe the Falcons should have won the Chiefs game, but they didn't. And I'm sure they were really disappointed in that. I don't know if it's still upsetting to them or if they're still worried about it, but I wouldn't blame them if they were. And like you were saying with the defense has had problems, and it's just a lot going on. But to my point
Definitely.
again, it's not all Kirk Cousins. It's not all his fault.
Nah, he definitely holds a large part of the blame, but this entire season as a whole is not just on Kirk Cousins of how it's played out.
And speaking of the quarterback situation, I know Coach Raheem Morris was talking about whether or not he should start Michael Penix or keep Kirk Cousins, as a starting quarterback. And, basically saying, like, paraphrasing, but basically saying, like, Kirk is going to stay the starter. And when Michael Penix plays, he'll play. Basically, just kind of keeping it like that. And so, to the next topic, do you think the Falcons should bench Kirk Cousins or keep him?
Great question. I mean, I don't know if this is breaking news actually, but I just read probably like 10 minutes ago that Raheem Morris actually spoke with the media and he was undecided on the quarterback for Sunday against the Giants. So that may be some progress. But as far I think it's time to bench Kirk Cousins. Realistically, if you're looking at the season as a whole, I felt like the perfect opportunity to bench Kirk Cousins would have been before this Raiders game. He was playing terrible for that. If you would have put Michael Penix in, he had the Raiders and the Giants, two terrible teams that are tanking for that number one pick. I think that would have been a great way to build Michael Penix's confidence. But now that we're sitting, we beat the Raiders lackluster. I feel like it's time to move on from Kirk Cousins just because he's just really hesitant. Me being I played college football, so I'm always the one person to go back to the film before I make any decisions. I actually watched the game again this morning. There's He's just something about him pulling the trigger. He's really scared, and like that's not something you normally see, especially with Minnesota. You were so used to Kirk Cousins; he's not mobile, but he can cut the ball loose. And I think one of the things that I just saw in that game, even watching it, was just he's really double pumping a lot of the times. Like, and it's like I wonder, is that because he's either not trusting his eyes, he's confused on what he's seeing, or is he just rusty? And we're at the end of the season now. How can you still be rusty? So I think that plays into it. There may be a larger thing with injury as well. He's coming off the Achilles injury. So I'm not sure, but I believe Michael Penix is the future. And, I think it's just time to get him playing time. I really don't even see Kirk Cousins coming back next year, but, that's not up to me. That's up to management. But I think right now is the perfect time to start Michael Penix. Kirk Cousins is not in your future. He's an old quarterback. He's pump faking. He's not sure his decision making. He's turning the ball over. Kirk Cousins has 18. I'm sorry. He has 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Kirk Cousins' regular season QBR is 52. That is horrible. That is horrible. If it was anybody else, they would have been benched. I understand that we paid him $180 million, but just because you pay somebody $180 million doesn't mean we have to watch a playoff team that was just a playoff team a month ago sink ship just because we got to stick with a $180 million quarterback. So I don't agree with that. I think Michael Penix should have started. I think Raheem Morris should have dropped his, you know what, and played him against the Raiders. But now the point we're sitting at, let's get Michael Penix in there. Let's get him that experience, and let's build for the future, man. Kirk Cousins is not the future for the Atlanta Falcons.
To your point about Kirk and his decision making and pump faking the ball, I want to go to a specific play against the Chargers. And so I think he had 4 interceptions that game,
Yes,
all that. And before I even get into this, look, I think Kirk Cousins is a good QB. I think Kirk Cousins seems like a really cool person. And so, to me,
absolutely.
everybody in the NFL is good. From first string to third string to practice squad, you're in the NFL for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
So when people say, like, if a player has a bad game, like, oh, he's terrible, terrible, all this other stuff, don't say it as if they're terrible overall. Maybe not as good compared to everybody else, but
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you're saying that obviously, but you know how people are on social media.
No, definitely. I think I had that visceral reaction too, just seeing, especially like you said, the Chargers game with the 4 interceptions. Man, I was in my career too. Man, this man is trash. You hear me? The man is trash. But looking at the overall, Kirk Cousins is absolutely a great person. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think I know his wife's from Atlanta. I think he's did a lot for even the Atlanta community just being here. He's tried to, ingratiate himself in the Atlanta community, and I appreciate him for that. But as far as on the football field, this is the NFL. It's a business. That's how the business works. And he's not getting business done. So, I mean, that's all there is to it.
With one of the interceptions he threw, I believe one of the receivers was running like an out route or like a deep corner, or like a deep out, and the cornerback is trailing, and the safety's right here, and they're like, if Kirk just throws the ball right now, the receiver's probably going to catch it in stride near the sideline. But he kind of hesitated, and then that safety was like, I'm going to just stay right here and go
Yeah.
over there instead of sort of, going, toward their zone and, all those things. And so Kirk was like, should I throw it? And the safety's like, I'm staying right here. He threw it anyway, interception. And so, I
Yeah.
get your point about the whole decision-making thing. And this might surprise you a little bit, but I think they should keep him as a starter, at least for
Why,
right now.
why do you
At
say
least
that?
for right now. Because, and I was seeing stuff like this on, different shows, like, sports debate shows, and they were saying, like,
Yeah.
okay, and even in my opinion, Kirk has done a good part of the season. He's capable of playing well. You saw how his performance was against Tampa earlier in the season, where I think he had like 4 touchdowns, NFC
Yeah.
Offensive
500
Player of the Week.
yards.
Yeah, and he did a good job. So he's more than capable. But it's just something in there that needs just to be better. So, however Coach Morris needs to get it out of Kirk Cousins, he should do that. But how sure are we that Michael Penix Jr. is ready to lead this team to the playoffs? Because, I was reading that the Falcons are only 1 game behind in the NFC South. And
Yeah.
so they can and they're 1 game behind Tampa. And so they can make the playoffs. It's very possible. And, I think Michael Penix Jr. is a really good talent. I think he's a cool person too, from what I've seen. But do you think he's ready to sort of be like, okay, I'm a rookie. I'm about to be the starter, and so now I got to lead us to the playoffs. And he didn't even play that much in the preseason because Coach Morris was like, well, after seeing him play, like he doesn't need to play that much in the preseason, which I get it. You're the 8th overall pick. I understand. But, I don't know. I'm not sure Michael Penix Jr. is necessarily ready. Now, what you were saying earlier, like, okay, well, let him play against the Giants, let him play against the Raiders, let him get his confidence up. But the
Absolutely.
Falcons didn't do that. They didn't do that. So, and then, now it's in like, okay, you're trying to make a playoff push, trying to make a playoff push, and, changes mid-season when you're trying to make a playoff push and, win the division. It kind of can sort of mess up chemistry a little bit. But, excuse me, but I get your point. I get your point. But also, with the Falcons drafting Michael Penix eighth overall, people are like, well, that's not a good pick. That's not a good pick. What are you doing? Yada, yada, yada. But no, 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 no. If you draft a quarterback in the first round to sit a couple years, that's a great idea. It's
And it's,
been
it,
done plenty of times with people like Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, other players. It's like, hey,
Patrick
yeah,
Mahomes.
yeah, Patrick Mahomes. And the thing is, the Chiefs were doing fine before Patrick Mahomes. The
Absolutely.
Chiefs were, Alex Smith was doing fine, but the Chiefs were like, well, let's just hold on. Hold on yet. It's not the end of the world. Let's just wait a little while and we'll get Pat in there when he gets in there. And so when he got in there, when he started, he won the MVP. So it's just like, I feel like they should keep Kirk, more so because of his experience. And Kirk's won a playoff game before. He's been in this position before where he's had to make a playoff run. Excuse me, and had to, sort of get things rolling, toward the end of the season. He's been here before. And I just don't know if a rookie Michael Penix Jr. is ready for that.
And I think you made some valid points, but I think when you look at the overall picture, he's a number 8 pick. You invested a top 10 pick into this guy. And no rookie quarterback is ever ready. Was Caleb Williams ready? Was Jaden Davis ready? No, but you throw them out in the fire, you see what they have. I do agree with you. I think it's really late in the season, so there were some games back then. I was like, if you're gonna pull the plug on Kirk Cousins and start Penix, you should have did it earlier. So I do agree. Putting him in now could cause some things to happen, but looking at this division race, we're one game behind Tampa. But if you look at the schedule, we have the Giants, we have the Commanders, and I believe we have the Panthers last. The Buccaneers have the Cowboys, they have the Panthers, and the Saints. All three winnable games. So when you look at that, man, and how the Buccaneers, how Baker Mayfield is absolutely dealing right now. So looking at that, I don't know if we can even get back into this division, man. So like, there's a lot of stuff with it. I think no rookie quarterback is ever ready, but sometimes you got to throw a guy into the fire. And if he's got it, he's got it. And from all the reports I've seen from, various Falcon reporters who've been at these practices, Michael Penix looks great. People in the locker room think he's going to be great. He just hasn't gotten an opportunity yet. So, and honestly, as a Falcons fan, I'm pretty sure a lot of Falcons fans would agree with me. If Michael Penix goes out there, can he really do much worse than Kirk Cousins? Can he really do much worse than 4 weeks of one touchdown and 9 interceptions? It's pretty hard to do worse than that. So, I understand your point, but I think sometimes you got to throw a rookie into the fire. And I think at the point of the season we're at now, Michael Penix is better for this team if we really want to make it to the playoffs than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not playing like a playoff level quarterback. And we can talk about Kirk Cousins has had a really good career, made a lot of money, had a really good career. Kirk Cousins has one playoff win. He's been there before, but he has not proven himself in the playoffs. So even if we were to make it to the playoffs, there was always the narrative: the Falcons are going to be good this year because we have Kirk Cousins, but what is he going to do in the playoffs? So I think that was always sketchy. But seeing this last month, I believe the Falcon fan base as a whole is ready to move on from Kirk Cousins. Now it's just up to Raheem Morris, our general manager, Arthur Blank, to make that decision. Because you got to put this rookie to the fire. And if we wait till next season, cool. But man, it's gonna feel really bad to know that a month ago we were 6-3, coasting to the playoffs, controlling our own destiny, and now we're having a hope. I'm gonna have to be a Cowboys fan Sunday night because I'm hoping they beat the Buccaneers. So
To your point about switching the quarterbacks and all that kind of stuff, and I was seeing people talk about this on different sports shows, but and I want to reiterate on their points. What if they play Michael Penix? Michael Penix, what if he doesn't do good? And what if the Falcons continue to lose? Is it like, it's hard to bench the starter who's making all that money and then go to the backup. Backup does bad, and then now you bring the other starter back in, and it's just a lot of back and forth and back and forth. And so a lot of times people say, well, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And
Yeah.
it's just a lot going on. But it'll be interesting to see. And I thought it was really nice of Michael Penix to offer his support of Kirk Cousins because
Yeah.
I was
Absolutely.
reading in the media that he was talking about it. He's like, hey, he'll be fine. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, with that sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, I think the organization as a whole will have a lot more sympathy for a young rookie quarterback making mistakes than a 36-year-old vet that's been here. So, I think that's the last point I have on that, but I think there'll be a lot
Fair.
more sympathy.
That's fair. Now to the next topic. Are the Vikings the team to beat in the NFC? I'm gonna let you
Gosh.
start that off.
I don't think the Vikings are the team to be in the NFC. I think when you look at the NFC as a whole, the Vikings have been great. Second in NFC North, they have a 12-2 record. When you look at the NFC as a whole, the Lions, I think the Lions are a really good team, even though their defense has become decimated by injuries. I think David Montgomery's out for the season now. So they've been ravaged by injuries the entire season. But I think the Lions, the Eagles, the Rams with Matthew Stafford, Puka Nakua, and Cooper Cup, and Green Bay, I don't believe they're the favorite to win the NFC. And it's going to be a true gauntlet. I think the NFC playoffs is going to be really interesting to see how this shapes out. But me personally, I think the Eagles are coming out. I think with Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, that offense is so dynamic, and the Georgia boys on defense have stepped up. Shout out to the Georgia boys. They've stepped up. I think Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC. Vikings have a great team, no doubt. Sam Darnold has definitely earned himself a contract in the offseason. Justin Jefferson has been amazing. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are probably a top five duo, wide receiver duo in the league. But the Eagles, man, the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC.
Do you still think the Eagles are the team to beat, even with people saying like, well, yeah, they won the game, but all the drama and all this extra stuff and whatever. Do you still agree with that?
Man, winning cures everything. Winning cures everything. I've seen the drama hole with the passing. AJ Brown got a touchdown this week. Shout out to him. He was on my parlay. But I think that, man, the Eagles, all that drama, winning is going to solve all of that. And I think the Eagles they're going to be a juggernaut in the NFC. I definitely see them coming out. But even when you look at, like I said, some other teams, man, the Rams. If Matthew Stafford and Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup get hot, the Rams have a really great D line as well. I don't think a lot of people are talking about their D line, but they made some great picks in the draft with Jared Verse and the FSU guy. I can't remember his name, but he went to FSU. They have a really good shot too. And Green Bay is not a sleeper either. That NFC North is tough. So I think the Eagles come out. I think all that drama, man. I think it was what it is. I think it's drama. You got to create storylines. I think a lot of people blew it out of proportion to be bigger than what it was. But man, winning cures everything. I think the Eagles are going to come out on top.
Back to the Vikings and how well they've been doing. The Vikings pretty much brought in, Sam Darnold to essentially be the backup. That's what, that was pretty much the plan of the idea because they drafted J.J. McCarthy high. J.J. was a starter, but J.J. tears his medial meniscus. And I know about a torn medial meniscus. I've had it before. I'm
Yeah,
not a professional like J.J. McCarthy is, but like I know what's going on. And
yeah, absolutely.
de- depending on the surgery that you get, with the meniscus surgery, it's either they clip some of the meniscus that's torn and they leave the good part, the rest of it, or
Yeah,
depending on how it's torn, they'll just sort of put it back. And so, with mine, it wasn't torn in different places here or there. It was just complete. And so they're like, all right, it's just a complete tear, so we'll just put it back, rehab. And that recovery takes longer. That recovery takes, it takes 3 months for the meniscus to heal pretty much when you have that type of surgery, but it also takes extra months on top of that to build all the strength and get used to running. It's a lot. And so
definitely.
everybody was worried, like, oh no, well, is Sam Darnold going to be good? What's going on? What's going on? And Sam Darnold has played well. Head coach Kevin O'Connell has done a great job with Sam. People are saying that they're the top quarterback, head coach duo in the league. And they've been doing good. And with the way they've been playing, I sort of feel like they are the team to beat in the NFC with the Lions' injuries going on. The Lions have had some injuries, and but even with all the Lions injuries, they've still been playing pretty well. They just have all the
Yeah,
injuries
definitely.
going on. So it's like to me, Lions pre-injury, they're at the top. I don't think really anybody was seeing them, but
No.
the injuries. So that's when they're like, okay, now it's sort of like, all right, they're kind of grouped in with everybody else. Yes, the Eagles have been on a 7 or 8 game winning streak or however many
I think they actually
games.
broke the
Yeah,
team record for winning streak. I believe it's like 9
yeah,
games in a row.
yeah. They've been on the winning streak and they've been playing really well, but I don't know. It's just something about those Vikings. The Vikings defense has been playing good, offense is playing good, and they're pretty much clicking on all cylinders. And some people even had Sam Darnold as an MVP candidate at one point in the season. So I mean, I think it's a toss up between there's Lions, Eagles, and Vikings. I think that's kind of how it is for me, right?
Don't I'm just saying, don't sleep on the Rams. Do not sleep on Green Bay. Those are two young teams. Rams not as much with the quarterback, but besides quarterback, the Rams are a really young team. I didn't even mention Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is a amazing back, probably a top 10 running back in the NFL, and then Green Bay as well. So I think the NFC is really tough this year. I really wish that the Lions could have stayed healthy, man, because I think that would have made the playoffs even more exciting. But I also think I haven't watched a lot of Vikings game this year, but I did watch when they played the Falcons, and there's some holes that can be exploited in that defense. Definitely, even running the ball and passing the ball. So I think the defensive coordinator does a great job of scheming up blitzes and sending a lot of pressure and disguise his looks and confusing quarterbacks. But I think they can be got, man. And if any team is going to get them in the NFC, it's going to be the Eagles.
Well, the next topic. So, how does Patrick Mahomes' ankle injury affect the Chiefs moving forward?
I don't know the severity of the injury. Last thing I seen, it was a high ankle sprain. So I believe he'll be back for the playoffs. As far as it affecting the team as a whole, I think it'll be a good thing to have Patrick rest, even if he isn't severely hurt. I think there's no wrong with a little rest, especially they've locked up a playoff spot. They're going to the playoffs. So as far as affecting them, I don't think it's going to affect them. If we were talking about their playoff chances, I don't see them going to the Super Bowl again, even with a healthy Patrick Mahomes. I'm not one to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He's just like Brady. But man, Josh Allen and these guys are playing. They're playing some great football right now. So that ankle, I think it's not as big of a concern. It's not season ending. He's going to be back for the playoffs. So I think he's fine. But even with a healthy Patrick Mahomes, a healthy ankle, I don't see the Chiefs coming out of the AFC.
They just won a Super Bowl, and you don't see them coming out the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the Chiefs, they're on prime time dang near every week, so it's hard to miss a Chiefs game. But the offense isn't as explosive. The O line is atrocious. I think if anything that's going to stop them, that O line is terrible. They have Patrick. That's why he got the ankle sprain. He's running for his life back there. So this doesn't look like the same Chiefs team that we've seen in the past that won those two back-to-back Super Bowls. But I'm not one to bet against Patrick Mahomes. When Patrick Mahomes is in the game, all bets are off. He can do anything. But as far as looking at this Chiefs team, man, the defense is always going to be stand up. The defense is always going to be great, and that's what wins playoff games. But I just don't know if they see Josh Allen and they have to face Josh Allen in that offense. I don't see them coming out there. I don't.
With Patrick Mahomes' injury, like you were saying, a high ankle sprain, I think I was reading somewhere or watching different sports medicine type of videos. If you're gonna have an ankle sprain, I think you would rather, and doctors out there correct me if I'm wrong. I'm really big into the medical field. I love sports medicine, all that good stuff. But I think they were saying that it's better to have a high ankle sprain than a low ankle sprain. If you're gonna have an ankle sprain, they're probably saying like the high ankle sprain would be the one you would rather have. And to your point about Patrick Mahomes not playing or resting, I think that's probably a good idea. Even if he is healthy, I
Yeah.
think it would be good to rest him at least a week or two because they're already going to the playoffs. Like they're fine. Maybe Carson Wentz can come in, do pretty well. We'll see. They still won the game. So it's not really too big of an issue. They still beat the Browns, and the Texans have played pretty well. It's kind of been like off and on with them, but Houston versus Kansas City, and they're playing without Patrick Mahomes. That'll be a game to see. But even if the Chiefs win or lose, they'll be fine. at the end of the day. But even with Patrick Mahomes this season, he hasn't played that great. I like Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a great player, all this stuff, but just this season, he hasn't played particularly well. And these ankle injuries have been starting to become like an issue because this is not the first time Pat has messed his ankle up. He did it last year, and so it's happened before. But we'll
Yeah,
definitely see.
and I definitely think like to your point, I don't think the whole this season of Patrick Mahomes, I don't think it's just because of him. Like I said, that O line has given him fits. He's been having to run for his life. And if you look at that receiver group, I mean, Xavier Worthy was a good pick. I think he can be a good number two, a good slot receiver, but it's just the explosiveness is not there that we've seen in previous years. And, I don't know how that's going to translate when we come to the playoffs. I know they can play good defense all they want, but they have to score points. And that explosiveness in the offense we have not seen this year. So, I don't know how that fares for them. I think if the Chiefs are smart, they sit Patrick Mahomes this week, let Carson Wentz be a game manager. But Patrick Mahomes loves the big time. And like you said, they play the Texans. I believe they play the Texans on Netflix. This is the first time the NFL has ever had a game on Netflix. I could very well see Patrick wrapping that ankle up heavy and going out there and playing. I don't think it's the best for the team, but I could definitely see him doing it.
You were talking about the Buffalo Bills probably coming out the AFC, and the Bills have played really good. Some people were saying that Josh Allen is the MVP. Some people say it's Lamar Jackson. Some people say it's Saquon Barkley, all this stuff.
Yep.
But Josh Allen has done really well. And when they played against the Chiefs, I think Josh was just like, okay, I'm going to play my game, and I'm not going to try to outthrow Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to try to do anything that I haven't been doing already. He's just like, I'm just gonna play. And he just played and he's like, all right, well, I'm looking around, I'm getting rushed and it's open. I'm just gonna run. And it's like, well, I'm watching the game and I'm like, well, Josh, they can't tackle you one on one. That's what it appears to look like. So they're not tackling Josh Allen one on one. And for the end of the game, it's just like, all right, it's just open and they're not gonna tackle me and it is what it is. And they won the game. So it really just depends, but I think the Bills will definitely see the Kansas City Chiefs again in the playoffs. And even when the Bills lost to the Chiefs last year, it wasn't Josh Allen's fault.
Yeah, I don't. It hasn't been Josh Allen's fault when they've been there. It's been the defense. The defense played some good games, but they've also gave up a lot of points. So I think if anything that's going to stop the Bills from reaching the Super Bowl this year is going to be that defense because Josh Allen, James Cook, those weapons on offense. Even though they don't have Stephon Diggs this year, Shakir has stepped up. Keon Cole has stepped up. They just got Amari Cooper. I think he's going to be great. Kincaid at tight end. Like they have weapons. So I think if anything, Superman is not going to stop him. Josh Allen is going to show up like he always shows up in the playoffs. That defense is what's going to be between them going home in the AFC Championship or going to the Super Bowl.
Well, folks, I hope y'all enjoyed this debate segment while me and David gave our takes on different news in the NFL and everything. Hopefully, I can have David back on. Have some more topics on here, but
Absolutely.
be sure to follow him on his social medias. Those will be in the description box. Now Media Group social medias. I'll have those in the description box. Be sure to follow me on my social medias. It's at BJT_era on Instagram and Twitter. And that's that. David, what's your Instagram name? I don't know it off
Yeah,
the top of my
you
head.
can follow me at Daytoven, DAYTOVENN 2 N. And also you can follow Now Media Group on Instagram at N.O.W Media Group. So please follow us, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. Like I always say, hope y'all had a good one. Peace out.